Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Amanda Waddell, and I'm the training manager here at BVR. Our webinar today is BVResearch Pro and RADA, Introducing a New Era in Valuation Intelligence, with Jim Allarding and Elizabeth Peterson. Before we begin, I'd like to remind you that your attendance today is eligible for 1 CPE credit. To receive the credit, you must answer 3 poll questions that will appear during this webinar, and you must complete and submit a brief survey within 5 business days. A link to that survey is included with your login email. It's also available on the event page for the program. At the conclusion of today's program, you'll automatically be directed to that survey. If you're registered as an additional listener, you must be on your own device so that you can respond to the questions and qualify for CPE. If during the webinar you have any trouble with the audio streaming, please try refreshing your screen to fix the issue. We'll take all questions for our presenters using the Q&A chat function on the side of your screen. Again, to receive your CE credit for today's webinar, you must answer 3 questions that will appear at random times during this presentation. Now I'd like to introduce today's speakers. Jim Allarding is the founder of Allarding Consulting. He consults on various valuation and litigation projects, lectures, participates in webinars nationally and internationally, and writes articles and books on valuation and litigation subjects. He's valued more than 1,000 businesses and has testified more than 400 times. Elizabeth Peterson serves as Chief Content Officer here at BVR, where she's responsible for the company's news, research, and training product lines. Prior to arriving to BVR, she spent 2 decades in healthcare and compliance information services, holding various leadership positions at HC Pro, the Association for Clinical Documentation Integrity, BLR, and Simplify Compliance. Our speakers' full bios can be found on the webinar presentation page as well. With that, I'll turn this over to you, Jim and Elizabeth. Have a great presentation.
Thank you so much, Amanda. And Jim, I believe I'm kicking it off today, so I'll get started. Real pleasure to be here with everybody today and to be sharing the stage with Jim. Always an honor. And what I'm going to do today is I am going to give you all a technical, hold on one moment, please, overview of the RADA tool. RADA is the latest offering from BVR. It stands for Research and Data Assistant. And RADA right now is part of the BVResearch Pro subscription. So if you subscribe to BVResearch Pro, you have this right now. You can start using it. If you don't have BVResearch Pro, reach out to anybody at BVR and we'll get you more information about that. And what I'm going to do today is explain to you a little bit about the philosophy behind RADA, how you might use it, best practices, and what exactly it does. And then Jim can go into some more content-specific details. So when I'm starting today, you'll see the BVResearch Pro main page, and you're going to see this Search with RADA button. As I click on that and that's loading up, I want to tell you a little bit about what RADA does and what it doesn't do. So RADA sits on top of only the content that's in BVResearch Pro. And I say only in a very, very good way because that's been very important to us. The content in BVResearch Pro is created by experts. It's vetted so that you know that what RADA is searching is only going on top of content that truly has been expert developed, expert reviewed, and vetted. So what does it sit on top of? It sits on top of the BV Business Valuation Update publication. It sits on top of Jim's publication, which is BV Law. It sits on top of our entire case law database. It sits on top of all of BVR's books, webinar transcripts. And then that's one thing I want you all to take away from here. It's sitting on top of vetted content, so you know that you're getting BV specific and vetted content. You're going to come to this screen, and if you've ever used an AI querying tool, probably looks pretty similar, and that was intentional. Just so you know, this latest updates ticker across the top, that's just a quick way to see the new content that we've added in BVResearch Pro. We're adding new content all the time, so if you so wish to just see what's new in here, you'll be able to go there. But when I've logged into this page, you'll see there's a query box. A couple of notes, and I'll get into this with more specifics, is you see this kind of, it looks like a paper airplane, I describe it as. That's going to be how you actually submit the query. And then you're going to see this Include Case Law button. And this is a toggle. And you're going to see when I click on it, there's a check. And when I click it, The check is off. Now, we included this, and Jim can give you more details, because we know that case law is so state specific, and obviously not all of you are in the same state. And so we wanted to ensure that you had the option to toggle this on and off, so that if you wish to have an answer with case law information in it, you certainly can get that. But the default is to leave it out, so you're not getting state specific information mixed in there. So the query looks like, the query tool looks like anything that you would have seen before in any other AI tool. Just a note on prompting here. You probably have heard how important prompts or queries are when you're using an AI tool. And so the answer is almost always in the tool that you're using, but you may need to massage your prompts and queries. There's a whole art to how to make a good query here. We'll be publishing more information about that. I know that in a recent BV Wire article, there was some information about that too, but I just wanted to make sure you were all thinking about that as you see me working on the tool. So I'm going to use a few examples that I have here just to show you how everything works. Let's start with a really basic one. Can you explain the implications? You see a typo there. I'm going to leave that intentionally, and I'll tell you why. Of grossing up cash flows. Now, I am an editor at heart, and this typo here is killing me, but it is important to note that the tool is smart enough to know what you were talking about here. So this is a safe space. You can make some errors in what you're typing, and generally the system will know what you're talking about, though I usually go back and correct my error there. So again, as we're pulling up our answer here, what we're searching is BVR content, and you're going to see when the answer pops up that you can get a quick answer. And if all you want is a quick answer, that you can type in your question here, you get your quick answer, you can go back to your work. But one of the other things that was so important to us as we developed RADA is your ability to go directly to the source content and cite content if you need to, because we know in your business valuation reports that going directly to the source is very important. So we're getting the answer here. You're seeing here that we're getting some definitions. We're getting a kind of a bulleted list, nice way to summarize the answer to our question. And there's a couple of things I want to note here as we're seeing this answer pop up. You will see after each portion of the answer, you're going to see a link. Now, these are direct sources. So again, if you're querying RADA because you need a direct citation to include in a report, you're able to get there. Now, there's two ways that you can get directly to the source. You can click on that directly, and you're going to see sources. Now, these sources are what RADA used to create the answer. So you can see the source here. You also can go directly to the source because, again, it's part of your subscription. So if you click on that, you're brought directly to the source document, and you can use that, either find more information on your own, or you can just verify that the source was there. The other thing that you'll see is search results. Now, this is kind of a deeper dive and more of what I think of a traditional Google search. So if you were looking for more in-depth information and way deeper research, you can go in the search results and see that you have a whole kind of slate of BVR content here that you can dive more into. You also can get to the sources by clicking the source button here, same screen. And then you'll see a few things here. There's a disclaimer here. You see this all the time if you're using ChatGPT or Gemini. The source here is BVR content. One of the other things, though, that we did is when I was mentioning before how important it is to think about prompts and queries if you're either not quite getting the answer that you want or if you need deeper information. Now, you certainly can ask a follow-up question. And again, you would go right into the section here, ask your follow-up. But one of the things that we've done is we've provided some automatic follow-up questions, things you may not have even thought of. And so you can see that there's a list of kind of related or follow-on queries here. We'll click on this one, and you'll see it's the same sort of process here. It automatically populates the query box there, and it's going to produce the same thing. So it's going to go through all of our content, summarize the results for you, and what you'll see again, are the sources and the search opportunities. Little slow today because I know a lot of you are kind of querying along with me while we're using the tool. But while we're pulling up that result, just another feature, this button here, which looks like, I'd say, kind of two pieces of paper with the edges folded over, that's going to copy the result if you want to put it directly into a report. So again, that's just another way to use the tool. I'm going to next show an example of some industry-specific content because we've been doing a lot of surveying of our customers and business valuation professionals and asking how you all are using artificial intelligence. And one of the most common ways that you're using it is to use it to research industries. And so what I'm going to do now is, why don't we do, can you tell me about, and again, that spelling error, A-okay, about current conditions. I hope you're able to see this. Typing under pressure is an art that I have not mastered in the ambulance service industry. Same thing as before. Going to hit that query button. And what, again, this is searching. We're not going out across the entire web, which again was important. I'm sure you've all had experiences where you've made queries using a tool like ChatGPT and Gemini. And because business valuation is so specialized, very often the information that you'll be getting is either too general. You might get those hallucinations, which is always a problem too. And frankly, could be something that you experience with any AI tool. But here you know that you're searching vetted, trusted research that you can instantly cite. So here you see quick analysis of what's going on in the ambulance industry that I'm going to use here, and I know that Jim is probably going to dive down into this further, is I do want to show you, well, actually, I do want to show you something that shows kind of the topical nature of this as well. So I showed you some examples and ways you can use this for research purposes, but there's also a news component to BVResearch Pro, and it's a way to stay on top of what's happening in the industry. And the tool can be a way for you to source that content and access questions to more topical things. And so something that I know is on everybody's mind is tariffs. So why don't we try that? How will tariffs affect business valuation? So again, kind of limitless ways that you can use the tool to access information. It can be a research tool. It also can be a partner in doing kind of legal analysis, but certainly it can be a way to kind of synthesize news that's going on in the industry. We're covering all of the news sources that BVR provides, including BVR Wire. So you'll be guaranteed to get kind of the latest and greatest of what's happening in the business valuation world. Again, it's producing this response here. We hear the ding for the first poll. So you can see just kind of a summary of what's happening here. And this might be all that you need. You wanted a quick answer just to stay of what's going on nicely here. But then you can also go, as always, to the sources and have more of a deep dive. So I thought that was kind of a nice use for the tool. Next thing that I'm going to be doing here, I do want to show you those case law cases, and Jim, you'll be able to provide an even better explanation of how this can be used as a tool. You're the expert in this, but let's click on that include case law toggle there. You see that nice check mark to know that you're that's been on. And why don't we do must goodwill always be transferred in Florida. Just came back from a Florida vacation, so we'll use that example. Divorce cases. So again, we've included case law here. And again, you can ask specific state questions here. You can be agnostic about state too when you include the case law. Just be aware that the results that you get back very likely will be tied to a state. And that's why, again, it's important to go directly to the source. But again, in this case, we are including that case law toggle. And when we've included that toggle, what this means is that we're telling RADA on the back end that it should go through our entire case law and legal analysis database. And so we're seeing this result come through here. And you see those nice kind of follow-up questions there that might help you with prompting. Not required to use them, but they're a nice source. And then we see some sources here. Clicking on them will bring you directly to the source. You see this is part of our court case digest, so you can go directly into the court case. You can see our analysis. Just a nice way to see what's happening legally in either a state-specific example, or if you need to search any specific topic through a legal lens. And so that's the basic overview of how to use RADA. Again, this is part of a BVResearch Pro subscription. It's in there now. It's live. So if you have BVResearch Pro, you're getting this now. Again, if you do not have BVResearch Pro, we're more than happy to talk to you about the product, help you get started. And then if you have any challenges using RADA and need some help, reach out to me, anybody on the BVR team at any time, and we're happy to get on the phone with you. And so with that, I'm going to actually hand it back over to Jim, who's going to give us more of a deep dive. Jim, take it away.
Sure. Elizabeth, before we do that, there's a question up there you might want to respond to very quickly.
Sure. This is the data used? Great question. So the question I'm seeing is the data used to train RADA further. So right now, and I love questions like this because it's like you guys have an insight to our roadmap for the product. Right now, we're not using queries to train RADA, but that is on our roadmap. So it will be becoming smarter, and we'll be using the queries you're making to train RADA. That was a great question. So thank you for asking.
Yeah, and I think just as a follow-up to that might come to some people's mind, this is, again, RADA is a closed model. So it's not going outside of its content, as Elizabeth has explained what's in there. So it's not pulling data in from outside, nor is it letting data escape to the outside. So you can be very, sure that you are dealing again with this closed model. Now that has some, detriments to it. If you wanted a general overview of what's going on in, for example, the ambulance service, the data that you got in the response that Elizabeth showed you is again from the BVR content. And more information you can get outside of here and go back over to ChatGPT or one of the large language models and ask it, and you'll get it from all kinds of sources, which may or may not be good. But I think you'll see, as Elizabeth has emphasized, having the data from a source, i.e. BV Pro and Business Valuation Resources, ensures that you're getting vetted data and you're getting peer-reviewed data, and just data that comes from this business, from business valuation professionals. And so anyway, that's I just want to make sure that you were aware of that. So now I want to go through and a few slides, because what I did is I used my own query, and I just wanted you to see how it came up, and we'll discuss some of the other information that and concepts on RADA. Let me pick up to it. David Foster just mentioned also soon we'll be able to save searches in my BVR, so you'll have your own personal confidential workspace. So that's good to know too, and that's the way the large language models usually work. You'll be able to go back and find your own queries and your own responses and be able to copy and paste them or whatever you need to do with them. So I had one of our clients, one of our customers at BVR, was asking about the Moore-Marsden model, which is a legal framework used primarily in California to determine the community property interest in a residence when the community funds are used to pay down a mortgage on a spouse's separate property. So it's particularly relevant in divorce cases where the division of property is contested. Now, this is again state specific, as Elizabeth mentioned. You're going to sometimes get state specific and sometimes not. It depends on how you phrase the prompt. So anyway, we went to take a look at this, and this was the prompt. The prompt was, what is this Moore-Marsden method? And then it went on a little bit more. So it told me the key aspects of that method. And you can see here on the page where it tells you generically what the method is, gives a little definition of it, and it even tells you that that comes from a case called The Marriage of Charles Nelson versus Arista B. Nelson. So I obviously had what? I turned on the click that said include the case law. So this was a case where I wanted to, because this is, again, it's specifically a case law type of model that's used in a specific state, California. So by clicking on that little button that said include case law, then I'm going to get those answers, and it's going to use those cases to tell me what this is all about. So then it goes in and it tells me what the formula is. And so that's nice. And so I can right away then, if I need to use something to calculate that, I've got the information, and you can see down here that comes from a different case. This one comes from Malmquist versus Malmquist, which is also a California case. And once again, had you not checked that little box on include the case law, you're not going to get this response. So that's why it's very important. I had seen this Moore-Marsden come up, and I do the digest for all the cases, and I monitor and manage the case law database. So I'd seen it come up a couple of times, but I hadn't spent a lot of time to see what it was. So I knew right away I wanted to find out from the case law. And again, this is just giving me a lot of information. As you can see, it talks about prenuptial appreciation, court discretion, practical applications. You can see those cases, those same two cases we talked about are coming up on these other slides too when we talk about this. So in conclusion, the Moore-Marsden method provides a structured approach to dividing property into divorce cases, particularly when separate and community properties are intertwined. So the point of this is these conclusions are very nice too, that not only to help the user, but if you're doing a presentation or something like this, you can kind of help yourself make these slides up by doing the prompts in BV Pro. I use them sometimes. I'm doing a case briefing webinar with Drew Soshnick and Jim Ewert coming up here in August. And in that case, I used the broader, actually I have an internal tool too that would help me to be able to put together some of the slides. So these kinds of conclusions and things like that would be helpful to allow you to do some presentations. And again, the disclaimer is in there that the answer is based on BVR content, so not anything outside of that. So then I went to those prompts that Elizabeth showed you that have some additional questions you might want to ask. And by gosh, one of those was, what challenges arise in applying Moore-Marsden method? And I thought, well, yeah, that's kind of some information I'd like to have if I'm dealing with this. So this is going to help me once again, if I'm applying this method and I'm in California and I've got a case on this, well, this is going to give me some information. It says applying that method. can present several challenges, particularly in determining community property interest in a residence when community funds are used to pay down the mortgage on one spouse's separate property. So, okay, that kind of, again, goes over and tells you generally what this method was that we're dealing with. And it says here's some of these challenges. So complex calculations. The method requires precise calculations, involves accounting for various factors. And again, it tells you to go see that Marriage of Charles Nelson case. In the second one, it talks about documentation issues. Parties may not always provide complete or accurate financial records, which makes it more difficult to trace contributions. So it tells me that in the Malmquist case, the court faced challenges due to insufficient evidence regarding the source of funds for improvements, which complicated the application of the method. So by this time, you probably will want to have gone over to the source page or the application or the other window that provides some of the articles and things like that. And more directly, you might want to just go right on over to BV Law and pull these two cases up, which are both in BV Law, and you can print out the digest, which is kind of a summary of the case, particularly focusing on the business valuation aspects of a case. And then, or you can go to the opinion itself, and if you want, you can print out the opinion, which gives you even better information as to what's going on. Commingling of funds, again, that's another issue that you have to deal with. So it tells you about that as being an issue. Disputes over property classification. This is another thing that comes up when you're in a community property state as to, in this case, California is that. Is it community property or is it separate property? And it tells you that the Malmquist case dealt with that issue. And so you, again, might want to go to your opinion on Malmquist, and either the digest might already cover that, or if it doesn't, again, you have the full opinion. And as you know, if you download the opinion in the PDF form, which is what you get in the BV Law database, you can search on the PDF. You've got a great search tool in the PDF file itself that can help you find what you're looking for. So there's a question up here that asks, what aspect of RADA is AI, that is machine learning? Elizabeth, you want to tackle that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Thank you for asking. So this tool is entirely AI, and it's using a large language model. It's sitting on top of all of our content. So the machine learning part, this kind of ties back into the other question we had earlier about is RADA being trained on questions? And so it's not machine learning in the sense that RADA is not being trained yet on your questions. It will be. So RADA is an AI-powered querying search tool. It uses AI, but right now it's not being trained on your questions. I think that answers your question. If it doesn't, you can ask another, or you can also email me directly. My email's in the chat function.
That's a good question, a good answer, Elizabeth. And I would just add to that we are constantly adding content to BV Pro or BVResearch Pro. And so that's important for you to know. Elizabeth mentioned some of those things, but first of all, as an ongoing entity, a living entity, if you want to call it that, we're constantly putting new things in. Every month we add new cases to the BV Law database. Every month we publish a business valuation update. Several times a month, Andy publishes the BV Wire. There are blogs. I operate a blog. Others in our organization operate blogs. All those blog posts are in there and would be searched by your prompt. And again, they're going in more each month. Are going in, And we also have some new people that are kind of recurring authors, Jim Ewart and Jay Fishman. They provide articles and content. So everything that goes into BV resources is going to go in and be searched by RADA. And that, I believe, is instantaneous. Am I right, Elizabeth? Once we put it in, it's picked up. Is that right? Okay. All right. So let's go ahead.
I'm sorry, Jim, I froze for a second. Yes, everything, the second something's put in, it's picked up. So great question, great point. But yes, and new content all the time, and it's picked up immediately.
And we're looking for, I want to make sure you understand, because of RADA, basically, we are looking for additions to our content database. In other words, we want to make it as big as we can make it in the area of business valuation and forensic accounting. And so we're dealing with some institutions, some of the VPOs, valuation organizations, to see if we can include some of their public materials into our database. So might be like, could be from NACPA, could be from ASA, it could be from AICPA. We're looking for that kind of content and permissions to include that information. Once that's in there, then it will be searchable by RADA. For example, there's a frequently asked questions document on calculations under the standard, under the AICPA SSVS, Business Valuation Standard. And it's got a lot of good information in it, but unless you know it's there, and you're searching, and you know to go find it on the AICPA website, which, by the way, if you're not a member, you may not be able to find it at all. And even if you are a member, it's hard to find. Well, that may become part of our content. When it becomes part of our content, it's going to be searched. So if you're in there in RADA and you're asking some questions about calculations, once we get that data inside there, it'll be part of the search, and it may come up as part of the answer. Let's see, let me look what David's got.
Yeah, Jim, can I actually just jump in for a minute too?
Yeah,
talking about expert content. If there is content that you would like to include that you've developed on your own, or if there's certain content you'd like to see in RADA, please do reach out to me, and we're happy to discuss that too. Because again, it's extremely important to us that the content that we include RADA meets your research needs, and having this kind of be community sourced is pretty important to us too. So,
and I'm not sure if we mentioned though that our webinars are in here too, under RADA. So
the webinars and the transcripts for those webinars.
Right, transcripts of the webinars and the PowerPoint. I assume the PowerPoints are in there also.
They sure are, Jim.
There's a lot of content. I'm sure you, particularly if you're a BV resource customer, you know that you get a lot of information on, we're going to have this kind of a webinar this month, and Amanda does a fabulous job of filling that schedule and putting together a lot of information. And we know that you can't take time to go to all of those. And so it's in there. So if there's something you missed, but the subject matter of that webinar deals with the question you're asking, it's going to go find it if that's a pertinent part of their answer. So this is a really, really good program. I was very excited when I heard that we were going to do that. By the way, I work as a consultant with BVR, and so I'm doing a lot of things daily with them. And when they said that they were going to put this together, I thought, this is fabulous. And we have some really smart people that put it together, a lot smarter than I am. I think you're going to find, as you use this tool, it can be an invaluable tool if you're in the business valuation or forensic area.
Right.
There's another question up here. It says, does it state when something is superseded, no longer relevant? Not really. You have to be date sensitive on this stuff. So, as we've said, you can go to that sources column and you can get the source and bring it up so that you can see it. And so, I mean, some stuff, and now there's a reason for that, for not automatically saying something's superseded. I mean, first of all, somebody has to go through and do that. AI can do it to a certain extent. They can tell you what the date is, and you can get the date, but you have to have some awareness of the subject matter itself. But you can, I think, aren't we working on a way to put date blocks on some of the responses?
Yeah, we're working on some date ranges, and I think that the feedback we've heard before too is there's sometimes when people do want to see what was happening at any given point in time. I think the point too, Jim, that you've made, and if you've listened to anything about AI in general, but certainly about AI and business valuation, is I like to think of it as trust but verify. And so the idea is that AI is not replacing what a human can do. It's a tool, and it's always important to kind of go directly to sources, and you will be able to do that research on your own directly by either searching BVResearch Pro directly or going directly to the sources.
Right, as David Foster has pointed out too. I mean, you've got, for example, Shannon Pratt's editorials from the 90s. So, I was looking for something the other day, and now I can't remember what the subject matter was, but I know that it wasn't date sensitive, time sensitive. It was something that hasn't changed in eons in business valuation. So almost all of the data that came up was automatically going to be valuable. Now, the other thing about these, and I don't want to forget this, and I almost did, on these cases and having the button to include them or not include them, Elizabeth pointed out one of the issues is it might be state sensitive, but there's a lot of cases, of course, that are federal cases that may or may not be sensitive. As you know, if it's a federal circuit court, it may be limited to that circuit. So you've got to be careful there. But the tax court, for example, it can still be limited, by the way, to a circuit. But the tax court cases, a lot of tax court cases in that BV law. So if you're wanting information to come up on tax court cases, you click that little button and it'll pick up anything that's pertinent in that area. But again, there are a lot of times when you don't want to clutter the case law up with the other information, because case law doesn't mean that that's the answer for everything, and it may be a bad answer. I mean, just go to the Gross case that most of you are familiar with on tax affecting. I've always said that was a very appropriately named case because it was totally gross from the answer that the IRS came to, in my opinion. That's my opinion only. But so that's a case where you may not want to find that answer or deal with that answer. So you take off that button that says case law. So anyway, that was a great, I'm not sure who came up with that idea, but that was a great idea.
I thought it was you, actually, Jim. You've been credited with that. Jim, since we've got this group, I did want to show one other feature of RADA that is really timely, and I think you're going to be excited about, and I want to show everybody. So if you don't mind, if I just show something really quickly.
Please.
Okay. Jim is obviously much faster at transitioning here, so bear with me while I try to multitask. I think you're seeing my screen right now. If you're not, somebody ping me in the back end. I do want to show you something that RADA also does if you're looking through a single document. I'm going to bring up an example, and this is a new resource, and we're actually offering this for free. And so you can access this entire document. I'm going to turn this over to Jim in a second to quickly explain what this document is. However, if you get this this resource for free, you won't have RADA. But Jim, before I show how RADA can work on a single document, do you mind explaining what the Goodwill Hunting reference guide and chart is? Because this is hot off the presses.
Sure. Yes, we just kind of released this partially yesterday. And this is an update of the goodwill chart that we've had out for a number of years, but it hadn't been updated in a while. Now we've got it to a point where it's a living document and it's going to be continuously updated. It has all 50 states in it, and it has, if you can, are you able to flip through any of these pages for me?
Yeah, I sure can. I'm going
Just
to
go to
launch.
just go to the one that has the map.
Yep. Right. So this pulls up and I'm going to show you how RADA is here. But first, while we're explaining what this document is.
Yeah. So there. Now you've got the position on goodwill for all the 50 states in the District of Columbia, and you can see they're color coded, so you get a quick look. But if you're looking in any particular state, you can, one of two ways you can find it. You can either click on the state and it'll go right to it, as Elizabeth just did. And each state has its own page, and it will have either the statute or the cases or both that deal with personal versus enterprise goodwill. And of course, this is divorce case, specific. But it's a great tool, and it's been around a while, but it hasn't been updated in a while. And so, like I said, we're making this what we hope is a living document now. And I want to give those to Stacy Vell, who she and her staff did a great job of helping us get this thing up to date. And we're going to be developing different charts in the future. But this is a free product. It's available to the public free. And so Elizabeth, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's again, this is available. It's a fantastic resource available for free. But again, you would not have RADA if you do not have BVResearch Pro. If you do have BVResearch Pro, this is included in your subscription, and the content would be picked up by RADA too. But in this case, we've opened the specific document, and we've got, think of this as kind of an individual tool. We know there still is a need to go through your individual resources, but they can be pretty dense. And so if you are reading a document cover to cover, but you have a specific question, you can go in. This looks pretty similar to the other RADA, but this is only going to look at this document. I'm just going to click on one here for the sake of not making a silly mistake when I'm querying the document. But what this option does is it searches just the document that you have open here. And this is kind of a neat feature, because the other thing that this will do, in addition to just providing a quick answer, if you need, again, citations are important, sourceability is important. In this case, you go directly to that page. And so it makes reading those really, really dense, longer content, there's still a need for that, a little bit easier to digest, and you're able to go directly to the page source if you need to resource something or reference something directly. So this is a feature that's available on all PDFs that live in your BVResearch Pro subscription.
And you can see on that particular product where in the blue, the case is highlighted. That will take you directly to the BV Law database. And there you go. And there's you have direct access to the digest, the metadata information, and the exact case opinion.
Yeah.
See that RADA you'll be able to use RADA in that particular case also.
Exactly. It's kind of like the movie Inception, right? It's a case within RADA, within a RADA, within a RADA. But again, the idea is that we've tied everything here. And so there's a few different ways you can use RADA. We don't want to make any presumptions about how you prefer to search and use content. And that's why we've given you so many different options here. There is no right way, there is no wrong way, but we want to give you options. And the idea is essentially, technology aside, we want to put content access in the hands of you all, the users. We want you to be able to access what you need and when you need it. So I did want to show that. Again, if you have any questions about the goodwill chart, I believe we're going to be sending out an announcement if we haven't done so. No, in fact, I think that went out yesterday. So if you are a BVR customer or you're on our mailing list, you would have received information about that. But if you did not, and you are not a BVResearch Pro subscriber and you would like to get access to this document, just shoot anybody on the BVR team a note and we'll get it over to you. So Jim, I'm so sorry for hijacking your presentation.
No, not at all. It was excellent.
Yes.
Additional information. And I really just have one concluded here, and we're almost out of time anyway. But again, just continuing on that information that I had gotten with the prompt. In other words, I'd already got my own prompt, and it gave me these additional ones, and so I was able to get a lot of additional information. I was fooling around with a couple of them this morning on pre-IPO studies on discounts for marketability. Got some interesting information about that. Again, out of what's in our house, so to speak, that RADA takes care of. But I think, Elizabeth, you did a great job too of just showing the various layers in all of this. I mean, the AI tools, I'm a huge fan of them just in general, but this one I thought was just fabulous because, again, it focuses on us as a business valuation resources, and takes our products and all of our content and makes it very, very reachable and searchable. So I hope that we're getting a little information on that.
And we did have a question about whether the searches are saved, and I love the questions you all are asking because it's like you've seen the roadmap we have. So right now, searches are not saved. That is something that we have on our roadmap. And so, think of it kind of like a ChatGPT experience, where if you're on ChatGPT, you can see all of your saved searches, and you can go back and reference those. That's on our roadmap. And I love, again, that you all are asking these questions, because the other thing here too is we want your feedback. This tool is meant for you. And we certainly have many, many ideas about both the evolution of how technology can empower content and the direction that we're going. But you're going to have insights that we won't have. And so I can't encourage you all enough to reach out to me, to Jim, anybody on the BVR team about ideas you have, things you'd like to see, feedback on the tool. And just in general, I'd love to hear from you and chat about how you're using AI in your practice and how it's helping you, what you would like to see, because this is really going to help us be able to help you transform how AI helps research and business valuation.
Absolutely. And I can't emphasize enough myself too that we want input. We want to know, what do you want to see out of this? I mean, that's, this was built from ground zero up by some very, very bright people that we have who work with us at BVR, and they can do a lot of things. So this is not to say that we have something that's fixed here.
That's right.
It's a living situation also, and we want to make it better. And the better we can make it, the more useful it is to all of you.
So I think that brings us to the end of the presentation. Jim, did you have any concluding thoughts before we kick it over to Amanda to wrap up for us?
No, I think we've covered it as well as we could in the time allotted. So.
That's right. Yeah, we could spend the day doing this with you all. So again, reach out to us with any questions you might have. And just remember, the point of this tool is to kind of put the power of content in your hands. It's sortable, it's citable, it's sourceable, and we are adding new content all the time. And so we would love to hear from you. We want you to use this tool, and we just appreciate you all taking the time out of your day to spend with us. So Amanda, I think we're going to kick it over to you to conclude the program.
Sounds good. On behalf of BVR, I want to thank Jim and Elizabeth for an excellent presentation. As a reminder, to receive CE credit, you must complete and submit a brief survey on this webinar. A link to the survey is provided in your login email and on the reading page for today's webinar. Your feedback is key to providing the best possible programs for you, so please provide us with any suggestions you may have. If you choose to fill out the survey now, your browser will automatically direct you to the CE credit page when I finish speaking, so don't disconnect. The survey will be active for 5 days and must be completed before we can process certificates. After 5 business days, we'll process your CE and send your certificates via email. You can also now access your CPE certificates on your individual MyBVR account under CPE History and Certificates. This is a new feature that should make it easier for attendees to track their CPE history with us. If you have any questions related to the content or format of this webinar, please email me at training@bvresources.com. And coming up for more BVR webinars, on August 5th, we have Valuing Veterinary Practices with Karen Felstead. And on August 7th, we have The Future in Focus, DCF Insights and Forecast Scrutiny with Bethany Hearn. You can find additional offerings on our calendar page as well under live events. Thank you all for listening. Have a great rest of your day. We're going to end this webinar now, so please go ahead and fill out the survey.